Hello, and thank you for your interest in our work. I'm Dongwon from the Computer Vision Lab at KAIST. Before I begin the introduction, let me briefly summarize the paper. In this work, we propose a diffusion guidance method called Perturbed-Attention Guidance (PAG). Similar to classifier-free guidance, PAG enhances image quality, but it can be applied to unconditional generation as well, and it doesn't require any additional training. The generation quality of recent diffusion models is quite impressive, but these models still rely on sampling guidance methods such as classifier guidance or classifier-free guidance. Classifier-free guidance (CFG) is a method that leverages both conditional and unconditional models to strengthen the image's condition and guide the sampling process to produce higher quality images. Although CFG is widely used, it cannot be applied to unconditional generation because it relies on conditional prediction. So why is unconditional generation important? First, it removes the need for human annotations like class labels or text. And it offers a strong general image prior, which is useful for many downstream tasks such as solving inverse problems. So our goal is to develop a general diffusion guidance method that works for both conditional and unconditional generation. Before introducing our method, I will briefly explain existing guidance methods. Classifier guidance uses Bayes' rule to compute the conditional density by combining the unconditional model's prediction with the classifier's gradient. This gradient is applied throughout the diffusion sampling process, and the strength of the condition can be adjusted by a scale factor S. Since classifier guidance requires training on additional classifier-free guidance is proposed. It avoids an unconditional classifier by using Bayes' rule to break down Py given xt into conditional and unconditional densities. So we can guide the sampling process by using delta t, the difference between the conditional and unconditional model predictions. By scaling this difference with a factor s, we can control the strength of the guidance during sampling as in classifier guidance. This figure shows the sampling process with and without CFG. In A at the top, where CFG isn't used, the overall structure falls apart. However, in B below, the top row shows that when using CFG-guided epsilon, we get much better results. This shows the early steps of the sampling process. The second row represents the conditional prediction, while the third row is the unconditional prediction. The difference between them, delta t, is added as the guidance signal. As a result, we can see that the overall structure forms much faster than with the original conditional prediction alone. Our idea is that since CFG introduces the gradient of an implicit classifier to move the sample away from unconditional sampling and closer to conditional sampling, we also introduce an implicit discriminator that distinguishes between desirable and undesirable samples. This way, the sample is guided away from undesirable samples and towards more desirable ones. We can define the generator loss for the implicit discriminator, and when we expand the formula, it results in an expression similar to CFG. The key idea is to deliberately generate worse samples and then guide the process to move away from them, steering the sampling trajectory towards better outcomes. So how do we obtain the distribution of undesirable samples? We perturb the generation process. To create worse samples, we can introduce perturbations to the input, the model, or both. Then, which perturbation should we choose? There can be various types of undesirable samples. Since we propose a general framework, any perturbation can be used. However, there may be specific concepts we want to avoid more strongly. When we look at the samples generated by diffusion models without guidance, we often see that the overall structure is significantly broken. Therefore, we can intentionally create samples with broken structure in order to avoid them. To do this, we perturb the self-attention mechanism of the denoising network, which handles the interaction between image patches and captures the global context. So, how do we perturb self-attention? The simplest way is to skip self-attention entirely, leaving just the residual, but this deviates samples too far from the original image. Recent research showed that the self-attention map contains structural information, while the value holds appearance. Since we want to keep the appearance and only disrupt the structure, we apply the perturbation to the self-attention map. There are many possible perturbations for the self-attention map. Most of them work, but we suggest a simple and highly effective method, replacing the self-attention map with an identity matrix. Intuitively, this breaks the interaction between image patches, preventing the model from understanding the overall structure, so each patch focuses only on its own value. For theoretical insights, we explain the connection between self-attention and Hopfield network. More details can be found in Appendix E. In practice, when using PAG, the sampling process shows a pattern very similar to CFG. Look at the red boxed areas in B. The second row represents the original prediction, and the third row shows the results after replacing the self-attention map with an identity matrix. By blocking the pixel interaction and preventing the model from seeing the overall context, it fails to generate salient features like eyes or a tongue. Therefore, the difference between the two predictions become these salient features, and by adding this difference as a guidance signal, we can enhance these features. Here are the operation results for various perturbations of the self-attention map. The simple method of replacing it with an identity matrix has demonstrated excellent performance. Here are the results of applying pH to pixel space diffusion in ADM, where you can see a remarkable improvement in image generation quality. The results from stable diffusion and SDXL. Also, we saw a big improvement in the evaluation metrics across all setups, ADM, stable diffusion, both conditional and unconditional settings. We test pH's performance on some downstream tasks. The first is image generation using control with an empty prompt. Since it's an empty prompt, CFG can't be applied, but we can use pH and it significantly improves the quality of the generated images. The second task is applying PAG to solvers like diffusion posterior sampling, which use diffusion models as image priors to solve inverse problems. With PAG, we see a significant improvement in image restoration across all tasks without the need for any additional training. Similarly, when applying PAG to solve inverse problems using the latent diffusion model with PSLD, we observed both qualitative and quantitative improvements. We believe that our work provides an important method that can improve the performance of not only inverse problems, but also any downstream tasks that use diffusion models as a general prior, in both conditional and unconditional generation. Attention, if you have any further questions, feel free to contact me via email.